Hello! By now, you have collected all the information you need to answer your research question, and you've written your introductory paragraph. Now it's time to get to the body of your paper, which is where you are answering your research question. Now, I have to be honest that I started to answer my research question and realized, this is going to take me more than one paragraph. Because my question was, what are some ways, how did Frank Miller's version of Batman in the comics change how Batman movies were made? And so before I answered that question, I thought, well, I better tell my reader about those graphic novels. So I ended up writing a paragraph about Frank Miller's two graphic novels that he wrote. I started with a topic sentence. In 1986, Frank Miller started a shift in how people saw Batman when he published Batman The Dark Knight Returns. I gave a parenthetical citation because I didn't know it was written in 1986. I had to get that from one of my sources. And I closed that with a closing sentence. The popularity of these books led to a different tone for Batman in television and movies later on. Now, you remember that my research question was going to be just about movies, but then writing my introduction made me feel sad about leaving out my favorite version of Batman, which is the television animated series. So I changed my research question so that I could include a paragraph about my favorite version of Batman. So instead, I went, what are some ways Frank Miller's version of Batman in the comics changed how Batman appeared in television and in film? Changing my research question means I needed to add something to my thesis. After some popular graphic novels by Frank Miller, oh, movies, and television versions of, nope, I was right the first time. Movie and television versions of Batman became darker and more realistic. So now that the reader knows what happened in those comics, I can start talking about the versions of Batman in television and film. So I have a whole paragraph on my favorite version, which is Batman the Animated Series. So I start off with my topic sentence. In 1960s, the television version of Batman was campy and silly. And then I go on to talk about how it changed. Now, I thought I had ended it with a closing sentence, but when I went back to check, it turned out, I didn't really close off my paragraph. So I added, however, the animated series is only one iteration that might owe some credit to Miller. This closes off this discussion of the animated series and transitions me into my next discussion, which is movies. So this is all about the Christopher Nolan movie and how it was a change from previous movies. So journalists drew a more direct connection between Miller and Batman and pop culture when Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins premiered in 2005. Now, I actually had to add a fifth source to my works cited because I wanted to contrast Christopher Nolan's movie with the movie prior to that, which was Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin. But I didn't know when that came out, so I had to look up a biography of Joel Schumacher so I could get that information. Then I talked about how the movie was different than the first movie and how it was similar to Miller's work on the graphic novels. So I closed it off with Miller's influence on the Caped Crusader was cemented in pop culture. So that was a nice wrap up to that paragraph. And next time we'll talk about wrapping up your paper with some closing sentences. Okay, so when you go to answer your research question, you're going to have to decide, how many paragraphs do I need? You can start writing your entire answer in one paragraph, but if you do that, make sure you go back and think, is there any time where maybe I switch topics? or I start talking about a different aspect of this topic. That would be a good time to give your reader a break and start a new paragraph. When you're done paragraphing, you want to make sure that each paragraph has a topic sentence and a closing sentence. The topic sentence lets your reader know what this paragraph's about to be, and your closing sentence either wraps up the topic of the paragraph, or it might help your reader transition to the topic of the next paragraph. Either way, these are both helpful signposts for your reader, and each body paragraph should have them.